Alright, what is good YouTube? Welcome back to the Martial Consulting channel. In this video, I'm going to give you the number one concept you need if you want to scale your dojo to 6 figures or 7 figures or potentially even 8 figures at some point. Now, if you already are like 7 figures, for example, this video may still help you, but you may be like, well, like that's pretty obvious because I'm not gonna talk about any technical like Facebook ad stuff or like going into Go high level and explaining like any what knows automations in there or whatsoever. I'm not gonna talk about any technical stuff about running your school in general. I'm rather gonna give you a concept that is going to hopefully help you scale to the numbers I was mentioning a second ago. So without further ado, let's straight up dive into it. And the concept I'm gonna tell you now about is really simple, and it's all about sacrifice, so to speak. Now, you may be like, well, I've heard the thing about sacrifice a bunch of times already. Like there are like God knows how many motivational quotes out there where people are like, you have to sacrifice if you want to achieve your goal. Like you have to sacrifice your bad habits. You have to sacrifice this, this, and this. But no one really talks about what this actually means and why you should actually do that. Like you may be like, yeah, that's true, and then you sacrifice something here and there, but then you're still watching Netflix every evening, or you're still like wasting time here and there. You like go to sleep, and then you're like, ah, well, I could have done there a little more work, but you just didn't do it. So the question really is like, why don't you sacrifice more for your goal? Like, why don't you just work more in order to scale your dojo, so to speak? Well, obviously it's probably because you haven't been fully aware of this yet, which is why I'm obviously recording this video. But maybe it's also just because you don't have a strong enough why, so you don't have a strong enough goal. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why can bear almost any how." And if you don't have a why for why you want to actually grow your school, then you're never ever gonna actually do it. Like you may get a little bit of success, but then you're always gonna revert back to your old ways if you don't have a strong enough why, if you don't have a strong enough goal. So the number one thing before we talk about any sacrifices or what you need to do in order to get there, or about any technical stuff, is that we need to talk about you actually having a strong enough why or having a like proper goal. And I want you to define that goal. I don't want you to be like, well, in 2 years I want to make 50K per month with my school. I want to have like a profit margin of God knows like 40%, and I want to have this, this, and this, and this. Don't do it like this. Don't put any time frames on it or whatsoever. Just create the lifestyle that you want to live, right? And create the person that you want to become. Or yeah, let's say, as I've said, your goal is 50K per month. Don't say I want to be at 50K per month in 2 years, or in 1 year, or in 5 years, whatsoever. Completely remove the time frame and just say I want to get to move my school to 50K per month, and I want to live in this house, and maybe even this street. Like just try to manifest it as much as possible. And then ideally what you'll do is that you'll even write it down somewhere. Or what I've personally done is that I've just created like a Google I don't know what's it called, like this cool Google presentation thing basically, but you can use like Keynote or PowerPoint as well for this. And I basically just putting this together, so to speak, and then I just read through it every single morning and evening. Now the reason why you don't want to put any time frames on it is because there are two things that can happen. Either you achieve your goal way faster than you expected, and you're gonna be too optimistic perhaps with your next goal, and then the other thing happens, or it happens directly when you set your first goal, is you're just gonna get discouraged because you say in 2 years you want to be at 50K per month, and then in 2 years you're only at 30K per month. Well, you're still at 30K per month. Like you've still made progress, but you're gonna be just discouraged, and there is a chance of you giving up. Now, I'm not saying you should never ever expect to be somewhere in a certain time period, but for the most part, just set the goal, remove the time frame. And then what I rather like to do is that I just wake up every single morning and I ask myself, all right, what can I do today to achieve my goal? To be exact here, that's also another tip I can give you here real quick. Don't wake up and then plan your day in the morning. Like always plan your day in the evening. Like use some dry logic, so to speak, like some rationalism to actually plan out your day in the evening, and then be like, all right, I've got to do this, this, and this. And then what I, for example, have here every single day is, let me see, I don't leak anything here. So I just have a sheet like this, and yeah, I basically just always write down when I start work, and then basically includes like every single day, every single time step on here in half an hour segments. and I just write down every single evening what I'm gonna do the next day. And then when I wake up, I'm not like, oh, I need to do this today, but I could also do this. What am I gonna do? No, I wake up and then I'm like, okay, I need to do this, this, and this today. Let's get it. And then like when my brain is coming up with like all of these excuses of like, well, but you could also watch some YouTube here or whatsoever. Like I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna do the work now. I'm not gonna give in to this because I know that achieving my goal will feel 10 times, if not 100 times better than giving into some short-term dopamine, so to speak. Now, obviously, you're still human, I'm still human, so it does catch me here and there, which is totally fine, as long as you're more often not being caught up by it, so to speak. Now, let's continue. Basically, you then may ask yourself, all right, like, what's the concept that you're now talking about in the middle if it's not like any technical stuff? Well, basically, as a human being, you have two components that you can use to achieve your goal. So let's say you're here right now at point A and you want to get to point B, right? Point A, dojo with only like where you're making like 7K per month, and here you are making like 50K per month. There's point A and there's point B. Well, obviously there's a gap between those 2 points. Now, in order to bridge this gap, time has to obviously elapse, but as we've discussed a second ago, we don't know how much time has to elapse. So there's just a period of time that has to elapse for you to get from point A to point B. Now, the thing is, we can't really control the time thing, as I've said, but what we can control is what we do on a day-to-day basis. And this is where the second component comes into play, which is energy. So you basically have a certain amount of energy every single day that you can use to achieve your goal, so to speak. Now, obviously, from point A to point B, you're never ever gonna get from point A to point B if you don't take the right actions every single day. It's kind of like, let's say you're a boat, or you're a captain of a boat in the single of the Mediterranean Ocean, and you're currently like in the complete middle of it, or you're like, say your example, for example, like somewhere close to Italy, like somewhere there in that area right now, and you want to get to Barcelona with this ship. So you set course to Barcelona, and then you basically go there. Now, if you don't like, it's cool if you know that you want to go to Barcelona, but if you're not sailing or going into the right direction every single day, well, maybe you're going to end up in Egypt, and then you're just gonna be like, well, why am I now in Egypt and not in Barcelona? And then it's like, well, like, oh yeah, because I sailed in the complete wrong direction, right? So, but if every single day you wake up and you're like, okay, am I still on course to Barcelona? Yes, I am. All right, let's sail a little more forward today, and then one day you're gonna be in Barcelona, and you'll be like, nice, that went easy. Of course, here and there, then you may get a little bit off the course, so to speak, but for the most part, you just should stay on track most of the time. Now, to make this more tangible, because it does use too much when I talk about ships on here, well, you should get what I mean in terms of your goal as well. If not, I'm gonna explain it now. Again, time has to elapse, but if you're always taking the wrong actions, you're never ever gonna end up at your goal, and then in 2 years you're gonna be like, why am I not at 50K per month now? Why haven't I made any progress with my school? Like, why am I still only at like 10K per month now instead of 50 or whatever it is? Well, because you always wasted time, for example, because you always slept in, you always made excuses to not do the work. It was maybe a little too difficult here and there, and you just didn't do it. So that's why you're then never ever going to achieve your goal. But if every single day you wake up and you take the right actions, well, sooner or later you're going to achieve your goal. But it's kind of outside of your control to focus on when you're going to be at your goal, so to speak, like when you're actually going to have achieved your goal, so to speak, right? Like, you don't know how much time has to pass until you achieve your goal. You can only wake up and use your energy, put it in the right direction, or put it in the right actions every single day, and then achieve your goal. Now, obviously, this is going to suck. Like, this is going to be painful, because this is where we get to the start of the video. You're going to have to sacrifice things. Like, you're going to have to sacrifice bad habits, like watching Netflix, like hanging out with the wrong people, or being lazy in general. Like there could be certain actions for you that you just have to get rid of, and you know what those are for you. Maybe you're really interested in football, and like every now and then you're just watching football, and you're just going down the rabbit hole of that. Now, don't get me wrong here, you still want to have time off, but you just want to use your time off with actions that may still get you forward a little bit. So, for example, on your time off, you could read books about About business, although there would still be then like quote unquote work, like that's still not really time off because you're reading books about business. So we can argue it's time off, we can argue it's not time off, but you could, for example, read biographies of famous people. Like and with famous people, I don't mean like famous people of today's world, more so famous people like God knows Alexander the Great, Caesar, Winston Churchill, Napoleon. There are plenty of those out there, right? Or you could watch, like, for example, long-term Netflix series are still fine, but like you have to remember here, it is still fine for you to take time off. It just has to be planned time off. So let's say you plan to work until 9 p.m. today, but then at like 4 p.m. you just decide that you're gonna watch like Netflix now for some reason, right? And you know you should have worked until 9 p.m. Or at 4 p.m. you're just gonna decide that you're gonna visit a friend now instead of working until 9 p.m. Well, you're not gonna make any progress then, obviously, and it doesn't really use you much because that's not really time off, that's just coping, so to speak, right? But if at 9 p.m. you've worked for like 10 hours that day, you did everything you had to do, you've planned tomorrow out already. Well, if you then watch like an hour of Netflix, that's totally fine, so to speak, I guess, but that's pretty common sense, so to speak, as well. But yeah, you like for most of you, this is probably not yet the it's probably not yet that way where you only watch like Netflix for 1 hour in the evening. And it again, it doesn't have to be Netflix. It could also be meeting friends. It could also be again football. It could be whatever it is in your case, or yeah, anything basically. And this is where we get to the second part of the video. Now, it doesn't use you much if you just clean up your personal life, so to speak, and you don't partake in those bad habits, so to speak, anymore. If you kind of get rid of them, the next thing you have to do is that you have to actually genuinely work on the right thing. So it doesn't use you much if when you then actually work and you sit down to work, you always just check your emails, or you always just overwork your website, overwork your logo, etc., etc. You actually have to figure out what are the actions that I need to partake in that will give me the highest amount of leverage, and that's basically asymmetric leverage, so to speak. And then you have to basically partake in those actions every single day. So let me ask you this: what would bring you more forward if you would actually set up a campaign on Facebook for your school, or if you would only overwork your website? Like, what's going to bring you more forward? Well, obviously setting up a campaign on Facebook, because that's actually going to get you more students. As a rule of thumb for you as a dojo owner, you can just remember like the only two things you should really be focusing on is getting new students and delivering the best classes possible. At some point, hiring is also going to be a part of it, but that's going to be a bit more later on. But we can argue it's three things, but those two, like getting new students and delivering the best class possible for them, just focus on those two things, and for the most part, just focus on what do I not want to do right now the most, and then just do that, right? Here and there, you're still gonna feel like doing some stuff, but for the most part, you're just not gonna really feel like doing this, doing what you have to do. Now, to conclude this video, two things that you have to do. Sacrifice basically every single bad habit that you have, and then when you do work, focus on what's actually mattering and not on some unnecessary stuff. And yeah, take the right actions every single day, and then sooner or later you'll be at your goal. I know it may be simple for me to tell you this now, and you may be like, yeah, that's true, I'm gonna take the right actions, but like, let's say it's like Sunday evening when you're watching this video. It doesn't matter if you feel a little motivated right now. What it actually boils down to is when it's Tuesday 2 p.m, are you then taking the right actions? When it's Thursday 6 p.m, are you then taking the right actions, right? And are you doing this not just for 1 week but also for like years, so to speak, on end, without seeing results when it really sucks? Are you then also able to work? That's basically everything for this video. If you want more students for your school, check out the first link in the description, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.